If you want to tee up. Thank you. And let's see, can I see the speaker slides? Yeah, great. Okay, so welcome to 1 Million Cups. So this is the Richmond chapter. And I should say that Dale Fickett is our grand poobah and leader, but this semester he's teaching 3 courses at the University of Richmond, and one of them happens to meet at unfortunately at 9 a.m. on Wednesdays. So that conflict couldn't be avoided this semester, but he's talked to the dean there, and they're going to work around it in the future. And actually, the University of Richmond is really interested in helping support 1 Million Cups. So that's a cool thing. Yeah, so here are our sponsors: Open Trellis, Laborum Edge, which John Marin represents, Honor Alone, and of course VCU. VCU is kind enough to provide resources, including meeting rooms. So pre-COVID, we would meet over at VCU often. So maybe next slide. Or do I have, am I in control of the slides, Ian? I guess not. So basically 1 Million Cups, the name comes from the whole concept of having people drinking 1 million cups around the country. It's a program that's sponsored by the Kauffman Foundation, a really large foundation to foster entrepreneurship across the country. So it's really about connections. It's not about entrepreneurs pitching, and it's not about selling stuff. It's about sharing the journey wherever you happen to be on the journey, and others, like-minded individuals, trying to lend a hand and lend support wherever they can. Next slide. Yep. So we've been in existence for about 6 years. Again, Dale Fickett started this organization. John Marin and I came on a few years ago. Ian, I think, was on before, certainly before I was. So 150 communities nationwide, about 1,000 organizers, several of whom are on this call right now. We'll cover that. And approximately 12,000 entrepreneurs are impacted by this program each month. And again, just as I said, these are really presentations, even really discussions, but they're definitely not business pitches, pitching for money or things like that. And it's about connections, just like what I said. It's a community type of really supportive organization. People don't get grilled like you're in front of VCs or something like that, or even bankers, Dean. It's not like that. So anyway, next slide. Yeah, about 113,000 people attend these events. So it's a pretty large audience. And 67% of attendees report attending them for the community engagement aspect. So it's really all about the community. 64% attend to the entrepreneurs to learn from others. And that's just really quickly a little bit about our section of the country. So you can see that the Southeast is pretty vibrant in terms of the activity in different chapters. And here are some of our organizers. Talked about Dale. Obviously, you know me, you know John. Lizette is really helpful, particularly with translations and those sorts of things. She's got a full-time job now, so she has difficulty making some of these meetings. And of course, Ian is a real stalwart. He does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work to make this happen. So thank you, Ian. And then again, it's not a sales pitch. It's really a discussion. And here's the criteria. And if anyone wants to apply, you can apply at 1millioncups.com, Richmond. We're always looking for people to speak. So if you have ideas for people, please let us know. And then just a little bit about our social media connections. All right, let's jump right into it then. And I think most of us have gotten a chance to meet Regina a little bit informally. And I'll just again say that Regina and I met through SCORE, and it was actually last July. I just looked, I think it was July 13th that we got that call out for, hey, could we get some help with your business? So I think for about the first month I was mentoring, and then it appeared that there were a lot of financial and accounting issues as well. So then I asked Mark Baker, I said, hey, we have this really cool client, this great client, and I think you'd really enjoy working with her. So pulled Mark in. So we've been co-mentoring probably since August, I think, later in August. And we've been at it weekly, every other week, as schedules permit, as she calls herself, as boss lady, as her schedule allows. So it's been really a lot of fun. I'm going to let, Regina's got a great kind of backstory and her reason why. So I'll let her get into that now. So thank you so much, Regina. Looking forward to your talk today.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. As John said, I'm Regina Holden. I am the owner and founder of Tiny Textures. So I've actually, I've been the owner of Tiny Textures for 7 years. So, I initially started off running the business solely by myself. I've worn a lot of different hats. So I actually worked in real estate for 7 years. I then worked in, I also then went to nursing school and became a nurse and worked at an urgent care center here in Richmond. But throughout all of that, I was always doing hair. And so I definitely want to start by telling you all how I got started. So when I was about 10 years old, I moved to Richmond, and the first person that befriended me was from Africa, from La Côte d'Ivoire, so like the West Coast side of Africa. And her parents owned an African hair braiding salon. And so on our weekends, that's what we did. We went to her parents' salon, and eventually they taught me how to speak French, but they also taught me how to do hair. And so they taught me how to braid, the cultural way of braiding hair. And so from the age of 10, I have always been braiding hair, but specifically styling children. So in the neighborhoods, for example, that I lived in, I always braided hair for the kids in the neighborhood, right? And so then I went off to college and I studied mass communications because I wanted to become a journalist. And then I was like, no, but I really like real estate. So then I got my real estate license. And then when the market crashed, I actually went into the nursing industry. And so it's really interesting that throughout my doing all of that, I was always doing hair, but not in a salon setting or not in the formal setting that you would think. I've actually just always been styling children for like friends and family members. But then I had a daughter myself. She's now 15 years old. But what I actually found was really interesting. My daughter was attending a private school here in Richmond, and she would say, "Mommy, there's these two girls every day. They're always playing in my hair. Like they won't stop." And she's like, "How do I tell them to stop?" And so I told her, I was like, just say you don't like being touched that way. And she said, "Well, Mommy, I just feel bad because they don't have any hair." And so needless to say, I eventually met their mother at a carnival that the school was doing. And she told me their story, and I was floored. So she'd adopted them from Haiti. And it was during the time that Haiti had that really big natural disaster. And so a lot of parents were left orphaned and things like that. And so needless to say, their parents had adopted two Haitian children from Haiti. And when they adopted those girls, they actually came with braids in, almost like what you see I have today. And so, the children did not speak English. You're in a brand new country. And immediately the thoughts for the parents were, well, how do we take this style out of their hair? And they had no idea how to do that. So naturally, what's the first thing you would do? You would go to your beautician and say, "Hey, could you help me with this?" And they say, "Oh, well, we don't style textured hair here. We just do this type of hair," right? So then the mom started venturing out to other salons and even barbershops, and there was no one that would help her with their hair, that would be able to show her how to take it out. In fact, she found a barber that said, "Well, what I could do is I could cut the braids out of their hair." And so he took clippers and he cut the braids out of their hair. And that was the only recourse. She actually spent over a month trying to figure out how to remove the braids. And she did find some salons that would do their hair, but there wasn't a salon that would do their hair without her having to take the braids out herself and bring them fully prepped for a styling appointment. So almost like, we'll do you this favor of helping you with their hair, but you've got to bring them ready by, at this point. So, and so needless to say, she she mentioned that she was going to use hairstyling as a way to bond with her new daughters, right? And instead it became a point of contention in their home. So I want you to imagine yourself as these children, right? I want you to imagine you're in a new country, a new home where no one looks like you. You don't really speak that language. You're at a private school, right? Where most of the kids don't look like you. And in the African American community, or just for African Americans in general, like our hair is, and most people, our hair is super important to us, right? But could you imagine all of those components, and then your head gets shaved and you really don't know what's going on? So obviously that was like a huge jolt to their self-esteem. That was a huge jolt to like their person, right? And their mother wanted to find new ways to like do their hair, to style their hair, and there were no options for her here. So I started going over her home, and I started just kind of teaching her how to do their hair, teaching her about the differences in our textures. And then I also actually started showing her how to style it, because that was her ultimate goal. She wanted to be able to style it herself. And so what was really interesting is after about the second visit, she was like, Regina, there's another mom that I know that's fostering African-American children, and she really needs some help. Oh, and Regina, there's this other adoptive mom who has a daughter from Ethiopia. And oh, Regina, there's this mom, they're not adopted or fostered, but she just has a daughter with textured hair. And we've just been looking for someone like you. And so eventually, right, I'm still working full time, right? And I still have my daughter, right? And so going from all of these homes, like in the evenings, I would then just go and travel out to the homes to kind of like help the parents. And then I realized, wow, like I need some help. So I started hiring other beauticians. And what I did was I'd give them a schedule, and I'd be like, okay, here's your schedule for the week. You're going to this house and this house and this house. And that is how Tiny Textures was born. We initially started off providing mobile styling services to parents in the comforts of their own home, and it was amazing. But we quickly grew, and we got to the point where, your staff was having challenges with getting, oh, my car broke down, or this person's house is an hour away from Richmond. And there were so many logistical issues there. But then we also started growing in demand, and there were so many people that wanted our services. But if you're driving from home to home, you can only see a certain number of clients a day. And that was when we opened up our first storefront location. We actually opened up our first storefront in 2018. And we opened up in August. And so it was amazing, really well received by the community. But what was really interesting was that we would pretty much have a line out the door every single weekend. And so by month 6, we had completely outgrown the building. I had created makeshift styling stations in the salon just so that we could take more clients, and we were filled to the brim. And so that brings us to where we are today. And I'm going to share my screen with you really quick to kind of show you our current location, our current Richmond location, and just so that you all can kind of see like where we are today and what we're doing. Can you all hear?
Yes, ma'am. Oh.
Are you playing sound?
Can you not hear the sound?
No, I can't.
Give me one second. Let me fix that. There it is. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. Looks like you guys get to watch it all over again.
Welcome to Tiny Textures, Richmond's premier full-service natural hair salon designed just for kids. From the moment you arrive, you will be greeted by our terrific Tiny Textures team. We know how important it is for your child to have a comfortable hair care experience. A big part of the fun at Tiny Textures is the hands-on participation our clients have in the hair care process. Choosing colorful accessories, relaxing in our dynamic styling stations, and kicking back with our individual Tiny Textures tablets means the time will fly by for your son or daughter. And what better way to show off your child's new look than in our very own Tiny Textures photo booth? Say goodbye to tears and tantrums and hello to loads of laughter and stunning smiles. We love to capture your child's new style for a great picture you'll both enjoy. Sometimes we make hairstyling a family affair. Looking good, Mom. Book your appointment with Tiny Textures, where your family is our family.
And so this kind of just gives you, a really good view of like our current location here in Richmond. It is a salon and spa for kids. But I want to kind of give you all a little bit more information about like why we chose to specialize specifically in textured hair, and why we're representing so many children of color, right? Children that just have textured hair. So one of the things that's really interesting is that there are over 50 franchises of kids salons here in the country. Over 50. Really popular names like Pigtails and Crew Cuts, Sharky's Cuts for Kids, which is international. But none of these kids salons style textured hair. In fact, they actually won't style textured hair. So we have had so many moms, especially our moms that are, transracial families, right, where they've adopted an African-American child, but they themselves aren't African-American. They want to take their child to get their hair done at the same place they take their other kids to get their hair cut. And they are simply told, we don't do that hair texture there. Can you imagine a child overhearing that, or what that feels like for your siblings to get their hair done at one place, but you can't get your hair done here? And so really what we wanted to do was make sure that we created a place that was just radically inclusive, right? Of all hair types, of all textures, and really just being able to provide like just that positive representation. So in our salon, we actually even have a positive representation library, and there are books of children with all different skin tones, all different hair textures, but really wanting to just make sure that we actually provide a place where we're not turning away someone because their hair is deemed too difficult or too hard. And so that is the why behind what we're doing, is simply because we are creating a space where there was not a space before. Typically children with textured hair have to go and get their hairstyle wherever their parents go. And most of the time they say, well, we don't take kids, we don't do children, or, your child's moving too much, they're tender-headed. There is this, and it's really interesting that it's 2022, and Tiny Textures will be, I love to speak things into existence, but we will be the first franchise that will be nationwide that will provide service to children with naturally textured hair. Our clients are very different than clients that come to get haircuts. So they don't come every 3 months. Our clients come to our salon once every 3 weeks for styling. And so you would think that demand there, right, would, give, other people like a call to action, but that part is just not there. One of the other really cool things about Tiny Textures, as I mentioned, right, the humanitarian side of what we're doing for transracial families and biracial families. But something that is really interesting about Tiny Textures is learning how to do textured hair is not something that is taught in cosmetology school. So when you go to school to become a hairstylist, you're taught how to cut, color, how to basically use chemicals, right, to straighten your hair or to make your hair curly. But textured hair is not covered in cosmetology school. And so what does that mean? What that means is that for every team member that I hire, I am hiring someone that is self-taught. And so it's really, really interesting that it's typically going to be another woman of color, right? That has taught themselves, just like me, right, at the age of 10 or 11 or 12, to style naturally textured hair. In fact, we have a young lady on the call here. Her name is Denise. She's actually a local beautician as well, and so is Haley. They both style naturally textured hair for adults. And so that's something that we learned how to do as children, and we just continued educating ourselves as time went on. And so with that being said, you're dealing with a specific group of people, and a lot of times braiders come from a specific socioeconomic group of people as well. And so what we have done is we bring in these stylists, these braiders, so to speak. We train them and we teach them, and we're coaching them, right, on client retention. We are teaching them about marketing. We're teaching them, how to represent the brand of the company, but also what we're doing is, we're creating jobs, right? and mentorship opportunities for someone that otherwise would not be able to grow and develop in this almost non-existent niche that exists. And so I wanted to highlight just two of our team members, actually. So we actually have a young lady that started working with us when she was 16 years old. And remember, I was saying this is something where you're self-taught. So she taught herself how to braid when she was really young. She has no parents. So her mother passed away when she was 11. And her father was incarcerated and then passed away while he was incarcerated. So she's been living with her 89-year-old blind grandmother her entire life. And so she came to us looking for work, right? She wanted to just, I love doing hair and I love kids. This is the perfect job for me. But of course you have someone that has had, very limited parental guidance. And so she's been with us for 2.5 years now. She just got a full ride to U of R. We have pretty much what we've been doing over the past few years is we pick her up for work. We drop her back off at home. We make sure she's doing her homework in the back. We're making sure that she's studying, and all of the team members, like Denise, they were like aunties to her. Anything that she needed, any advice that she needed where her parents weren't there, Tiny Textures created really almost like an atmosphere of home for her that really helped her to stay focused and to have like the guidance that she needed. And I mean, her success story is amazing. And so she just found out 2 weeks ago that she was accepted into U of R, and she called me crying, and she's just like, thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. Thank you so much for just picking me up, for dropping me off at home. And, because she said, I was just going to ride the bus. Right. But, and so just really thinking about the fact that we have so many team members that kind of fit into that category. In fact, we just had a young lady, she's 14, that just started working with us. And she also, mother is incarcerated. Her father, is not in the picture. And so pretty much what she's been doing is kind of living with relatives from week to week, a different relative, kind of just swapping out between homes while her mom is incarcerated. But she recently got into the governor's school. And so guess what? Now we have another young lady who's doing her homework in the back, who we pick up for work and we take home, and we're helping to stay focused. And so the humanitarian efforts and the ministry behind what Tiny Textures does is twofold. So we're not just helping families, but we're bridging the gap, right, with the African-American community, or just any child or a person with textured hair or colored person, right? We're bridging that gap of employment, right? Resources for being mentored, right? But then we're also, of course, helping these families with self-esteem, right? Being able to help their children to build confidence, maybe in homes where they're African-American, but their parents are not. And so the humanitarian efforts that we are providing, I mean, it's a huge blessing. And that is where I feel like we've been most successful, right? And that is what I would consider to be success, is if we can continue growing a brand and growing a business that is represented just like this and is a pillar in every community where we open up a location. And so we're actually opening up another location in Williamsburg this spring. So we're super, super excited about that. It'll open up, it's right now, it's slated for our grand opening to happen on April 2nd. And so we are so super excited. The community there is excited because there is nothing like this there. And so right now we have families that drive from Dulles, from the Dulles airport area, from Newport News, from Virginia Beach. We even have clients that drive as far as North Carolina, up to Tiny Textures every 3 weeks for styling appointments or for parent education classes. And so our goal is to just really be able to reach families all along the East Coast and for as far as we can reach, right? Of course, I can't do that by myself, but that is definitely the vision that God has given me. But with giving you all just that backstory and that information about kind of like our staffing, I want you to know that has actually been what is our biggest pain point, is staffing. It's kind of almost like looking for a unicorn, right? So look at it this way. So if most people go to cosmetology school to learn how to style adults, we're looking for people that are willing to style children, that are kid-friendly, that have bubbly personalities, right? But that are also looking to grow and build a relationship with children. And so, but they also at the same time have to be self-taught almost a certain skill set and a certain level of styling, right? And so they have to have that talent there. And so it's kind of like looking for a unicorn. And so that has been what I would say has been our biggest challenge, is because it is not easy styling natural hair. It's not easy styling textured hair, but the need is there, right? The desire is there. And we want to just make sure that we continue to reach people as far and wide. So I'm going to, go from here into kind of just answering some questions, if that's okay. John, do you feel like it's a good time for that?
Just taking myself off mute. Yeah, I think this
Okay.
is actually the perfect time, and you really put a lot of information out there. This is probably 1 million cups worth of stuff. So a lot of great and interesting things to chew on here. So I see a question in the chat window from Jeff. Jeff, do you
It looks
want
like Dan is right before him, Dan Light.
Oh, I didn't see Dan in my window. So thank you. Appreciate that.
I got you,
No,
Dan.
I just was just saying that you just talked about expanding to Williamsburg, and I know a couple of other small business owners in Williamsburg that, you may want to start a small business owner circle or something, and offer to make an introduction if you want to send me your email address.
I would absolutely love that, John. Dan, I'm gonna go ahead and put my email in the chat. I would absolutely love that if you'd make a soft introduction. I've actually seen Learn Lily. So they are, not even kidding you, they're the next block over from where we're located. So
Okay.
we're actually opening up in Midtown Row, which is a new redevelopment for the Williamsburg area, right by the U of R, the William and Mary campus.
Well, you ought to drop by and say hello to Judy. Tell her Dan Light sent you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so
That's
much,
great.
Dan. I appreciate you for doing that soft introduction for me.
Yeah, and I would just say, everyone, feel free to share contact information. So Regina, if you want to put your information in there, whatever you want to share, whether it's email or
Absolutely.
LinkedIn or whatever you want, it'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jeff, your question was, what is your growth strategy? What is your growth strategy with where you are looking to locate? You mentioned clients coming from as far as Northern Virginia. So essentially we have our, what I would say is our soft 5-year plan, right? And so we're at year 3. And so we've already opened up the second larger location for Richmond that is now a salon and spa. So for those of you that don't know, we also offer spa parties for kids. And so a lot of parents were coming to get their kids' hair done there, and they were like, "This place is so cute. Can my daughter have a birthday party here?" And so, one of the biggest things for me is I definitely want to just make sure that we're consistently focusing on what we're great at, right? But if there are other opportunities for us to meet the needs of the children that are coming in for styling services, then we will. So we offer manicures, pedicures, facials. We do a dance party, and the kids even do like a sparkling drink out of champagne flutes. It's the cutest thing. But we do birthday parties. So to answer your question though, Jeff, essentially in our 5-year plan, so we've opened up the larger location for Richmond. Williamsburg is number 2, and Northern Virginia is our 3rd location that we plan to have open. And we'll go then from Northern Virginia to the North Carolina area. And so if that answers your question, Jeff, I just want to make sure that I saw like the last part of your question. Yeah, we mentioned clients coming from as far as Northern Virginia. So really just wanting to kind of just, where we have the majority of our clients coming from, but also really being able to like pull specs for those areas, right? How many children do we have there that have textured hair, or how many, not just transracial families, but even African-American families are in that area that are driving from so far or just don't have any resources. We're consistently running like marketing research and just data to pull that information before, we actually decide on a specific location. So Northern Virginia is our obvious, when I say our obvious next location, it certainly is. So John, you said everything you're doing sounds incredibly impactful. Since you mentioned staffing as a pain point, can you provide more information about team member benefits and what the compensation model is for the staff? So yes, so obviously So this is probably where John and Mark, I would say, have helped me the most. So when I started off, we were providing styling services for, I was going into people's homes and I was like, oh, just $25. It's okay. Just give me $25. And then I'd be at their house for 3 or 4 hours. But now, obviously, with us growing, we have a storefront location, so you've got overhead expenses. And so what we've essentially done is our clients, we've broken down our pricing model where our clients are charged by how long it takes to style their child's hair. So the thicker the hair, the longer the hair, the more expensive the appointment is. And so that allows us to offer our staff a more reasonable wage than what we started with. But essentially with our team member benefits, we just rolled out a benefits plan. So I'm like super excited about that. This is our first year offering that as of January. So our company offers 50%. We pay for 50% of their medical, 50% of their dental, and 100% of their vision benefits. And then we also offer paid vacation time after they've been with the company for a certain time frame. And then with regards to like our benefits, we offer a structure. So for example, these 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds that we're hiring that are in high school, but they're in a registered cosmetology program in their high school, they're hired as junior stylists. And then they can then be promoted to a senior stylist position, right? Which makes them want to stay with us that senior year and first few years of college, right? And then you can go from a senior stylist position to a shift manager position where you're kind of managing the day-to-day flow of the salon. So there's that promotion level there. You can then go from there to being an assistant salon manager, and then we have our salon manager position. So what's really interesting is that the young lady that's going to be managing and running the location in Williamsburg, she started with us 2 years ago as a junior stylist because she was working part-time for us and working full-time for Wells Fargo as a banker. She loves it so much. She's enjoyed working for the company so much that she then came over with us full time, and she's now going to be running the branch in Williamsburg. And so she started off as a junior, went to a senior, became a lead stylist, shift manager. So she's actually completely grown with the company. And so that's something that we definitely try to make sure that when we're doing our efforts with trying to, bring in new team members, that this is not a company where you have to stay behind the chair the whole time, right? We're offering opportunities for growth and advancement. And I mean, obviously, that's why it's so important for like small businesses to consistently make sure that you do have a mentor, because John and Mark helped me with that tremendously. So hopefully, John, that answers your question.
I do have a follow-up on that, because you said
Yes.
you're looking for more team members, and that's kind of a pain point. Is it's finding qualified team members, or is it like, do you have a lot of applicants, they're just not qualified, or
Yeah, so I will say that we do have a lot of applicants. They typically apply because they want to make money. And then you quickly find out that they don't have reliable transportation. They don't have anyone to watch their kids, so they can't make it to work on time. They actually don't like doing kids' hair. They find that out after they start working at the salon. I would say that that's probably the larger part of what we see. But I would say more importantly, because I have built relationships with the area technical centers and the cosmetology schools. So I'm on the board of advisors for all of the Empire Beauty schools here in Richmond. And I'm on the board of advisors for the ACE Center, which is the tech program for acceleration for Henrico, for the city of Richmond, and for Chesterfield County. So I'm able to really kind of hit those cosmetologists before they're actually go into the industry, right? But the biggest thing for us has really been kind of retention, right? Does someone want to style kids' hair long-term? And so that's something that I would say that John and Mark are helping me with actively now, is just making sure that we create a structure where someone, again, like I said, is able to grow with the company, and that can be consistent enough for them to see this as a career and not just a transitional job.
Do you mind if I ask follow-up? Sorry if I'm taking up too much
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
If you find people, I don't know how frequent transportation is maybe someone's only issue. If they're qualified in every other way, but transportation is an issue, If that's the case, are there options where there is, and I don't know if it'll get past thing in right now for childcare, but I'm sure transportation and childcare is two big issues.
And that's the biggest issue for our employee type. Yes.
And so I was wondering, is there something there in terms of a benefit that can help out with maybe some kind of a corporate Uber account or Lyft account, something like that can help with transportation, or even bus pass, or whatever's going to work best for both the business and potential employees, as well as I don't know. I'm not a parent. I don't know what all the options are for childcare, but is there something there that can help out, or some kind of something to figure out like what might work well for childcare for a group of employees together, and maybe you can get a discount for childcare if it's for one center for multiple staff members. But I don't know if that's already been discussed or thought about, but I'm just trying to think of if the only barrier is something like that, that's like a personal thing going on, but they're qualified, then what are some of the options then?
So I will tell you at this point, I think that because we have just only solidified, right, like our financial structure, being able to see how the company could offer a benefit like that, especially with, so I will say, a lot of people have said, Regina, you should just open a daycare for your staff. It's been that much of an issue, right? So many people have said that. And then they say, well, Regina, you have the clients, so they'll bring their kids to your child care center too. So that's not a thing, right? But then that opens up a whole nother. But I will say offering a child care benefit, or for example, like a corporate Uber or Lyft account that they can then kind of just schedule rides within to get to and from work, have not been something that I've explored. So I've written that down so that we can start to explore that as an option, because then that definitely would help alleviate the personal struggle that then makes its way into the workplace. So thank you so much for that, John. I appreciate it. Did you have a question, Ian?
As a matter of fact, I do. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to present to us. So my question is, what are some of the testimonials or feedback have you received since founding Tiny Textures?
Yeah, I would say most of them super emotional, right? Which is why on the hardest day, right? The hardest day doing this, it's not something that you could ever walk away from. So I'll share something with you. So when I had these two little girls, they started with me. One of them had like severe eczema, and her hair was coming out in patches, and her mom was a local pharmacist, and she was just like, we've tried everything, nothing's working. So, we started styling her daughter's hair. And when I say her hair was in patches, it was about maybe that long when she started with us. Her hair is all the way down to here now. And her mom, every single time she walks into the salon, she'll say, thank you. I just want to thank you so much. Can you see her hair? Do you see her hair? Do you see how happy she is now? Thank you so much. And for her mother's thing, her biggest thing was, I just want to make sure that when she starts school, she's not being teased for being bald. And so we started working on that right away. I think some of the most impactful statements have come from my transracial families, because styling hair had become a point of contention in their homes, right? And so there was always arguing, fussing, fighting, the children feeling like, well, that's the disconnect. I love my adopted mom, she's my mom, but you just don't understand me here. And so to now I have adoptive moms that they just come in for like trims and treatments now, because they can braid themselves. They can do twisting styles themselves because they've been doing our parent education classes. And so for them, it becomes emotional. And when they are sharing their testimonials, they're tearful, because it's completely changed their lives. And so it's something that we think about like on our end, well, it's just hair care, but it's just not, because it has completely changed the relationship that they have with their children. And that doesn't just go for my transracial families, for our African-American families even, right? Any child with textured hair, if your child's hair texture is different from yours, it's a struggle. It is a huge struggle, and it doesn't take an hour to do this. We're talking 2, 3, 4 hours to just simply wash and style your child's hair. And so 10, 15 years ago, we all just put relaxers in our kids' hair and we just straightened it because that was what was socially acceptable. And that's what was considered nice hair, neat hair. But when society threw that away and the natural hair movement was born, everyone stopped putting harsh chemicals in their kids' hair. So then you had a whole group of people that even though they were African-American, they did not know what to do with their kids' hair. And so that's where we come into place, right? Where we're gonna, where we're creating that space where you can not just only learn how to style your child's hair, but also have somewhere where they can receive consistent styling services. It's been a life changer. So one of the funniest though testimonials I received is one of my moms recently said, she said, I just want to let you know, I know you had to go up on your prices a little bit, but it doesn't matter because I just put you as a line item in our budget. You have to be on the budget. I'll just give away the cleaning lady. The cleaning lady doesn't have to come, but they have to get their hair done. So I would say that is that's kind of what I would like to say, kind of puts like a little battery in my back, like the Energizer Bunny, right? That just kind of keeps me going. Are really just seeing like the impact for the parents and how that changes their lives for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Tucker.
Quick question. Other than the fact that you were not born, where were you 25 years ago?
Yeah, that is, if you look on our Google reviews, right? And by the way, we have a 5-star rating on Google. I would say that is what everyone says, every parent. I wish you were around when I was younger. I wish I didn't have to go through what I went through as a child.
My daughter when she was 5.5, and I had to learn how to do hair, and I never learned how to do everything, but at least it got relatively neat. But I was so embarrassed when I had to take her to school. But the teachers worked with me; they knew what she was going through. Said she had a good personality and good attitude. But as she got older, I did meet a couple of girls that would come by and fix her hair. And in the last 3 or 4 years, I'm going to check with them and maybe send them to you. I don't have the information yet. And just let them interview. I'll tell them something about you and maybe
absolutely.
So
I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, we're in this together. We got to work together.
100%.
Don't forget your information.
And thank you for sharing that.
Yes, sure.
Dan.
Yeah, I'm sure you can work wonders with my hair, but what is the problem? I mean, what separates textured hair from just hair?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a really good example. So I don't know if you have any children, but
she's 50 years old, but yes.
So if you remember at bath time, you guys would just take her in the bath and just wash her hair. And then you guys would just brush it through a couple times, and then she'd go to bed and wake up and her hair would be dry, and you just brush it through and send her to school. With textured hair, you can't do that. So with textured hair, every time you get it wet, you have to completely finish the process. Otherwise, their hair will get matted up and become like dreadlocks. So when children with textured hair take a bath, they can't get their hair wet. In fact, we have to do everything we can to keep it from getting wet. Something as simple as washing their hair for your daughter, you can do it at bath time. It'll take 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. With textured hair, especially like at our salon, it takes 45 minutes just to wash, condition, detangle, and blow dry their hair. And that's if their hair is shoulder length or above. A lot of kids with textured hair have hair to their shoulder blades. Some of them have waist length hair. And so you're saying for that parent, it would take them at least 2 to 3 hours to just simply wash and detangle their hair and dry it. And so textured hair, there's a lot more strands. It's thicker. It's not always more coarse, right? Sometimes you have finer textures, sometimes you have more coarse textures, but it is a lot more temperamental and requires a lot more care in order to stay healthy. So where your daughter, for example, could wet her hair every day, if you wet someone's hair that is textured every day, it'll dry out, become brittle, and start to fall out. And then parents are like, I don't know, I'm washing it every day. What's happening with her hair? And it's because you can't style it the same. And so that's what our adoptive parents find the most, is they go into it trying to care for their hair like they would care for their child's hair like they would their own hair. And you can't do that. And Haley, I'm sure you have some sentiments to add to that to help Dan see. Go ahead. Haley?
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
actually didn't have per se sentiments, but a question, but I
Mhm.
can speak to that for Dan. One thing about what you're doing that's so amazing, Regina, is that you are setting up the future generation to not have the struggles we all had. Because I have a salon, just for everyone, that specializes in natural hair as well, but it's for adults only. And with that in mind, the adults that I see ranging anywhere from, in their 20s to later 50s and 60s are still having the same troubles with their own hair. So I'm educating my clients similar to how Regina is, but these are grown people who have not yet developed the skill set that she's teaching young children. So in that case, it's a struggle, whether it's a child or adult, to learn how to manage what they naturally are born with their hair texture.
Thank you, Haley. Dan, you had a question? And thank you, Haley. I appreciate it.
No, I'm sorry. I thought I lowered my hand, but
Oh.
thank you both, Haley and Regina, for the explanation and the clarification.
Thank you. And Haley, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do. And I've asked you this question before, Regina, but I'm going to keep asking until I get it down packed.
Okay.
So you know where I am in my journey, but I'll share with others just so they have context. So I actually opened my salon in 2018 as well. But the difference between my situation and yours, Regina, is that like I'm still the main service provider, and that's something I'm still having a bit of challenge with. I think I have two team members right now that I'm truly like thankful for that have helped a lot with the client load. But my question for you is if you could narrow down the three things that really helped you with taking yourself from out of the role of service provider, because I know you built that rapport with your clients and that trust with their clients to transfer it over to these new people that they haven't met before. What would be the three things that really helped you expand your team and take yourself from the main service provider role?
So I actually will tell you it's one thing. It's just one thing. And it's may seem interesting to others, but the reality is that it's just getting on the other side of fear. And that's it. You just get on the other side of what you think is going to happen if you don't stay behind the chair, right? Because you can hire. See, the thing is you specialize in styling adults, so you can go pull somebody out of cosmetology school, right? Which is a little bit different from me. And so you can also just post an ad that you're hiring natural hair stylist and hire someone that's licensed. And so you can conduct interviews and hire team members, but your concern is whether they will be able to offer the service the same way that you do. And so really for you, it's simply go ahead and start hire those people, right? And train them up to represent your brand the way that you want them to represent it, and just do it. And the only thing that stops you from doing that is being afraid of what will happen if you don't, if it's not you. Afraid that people will leave if it's not you. Afraid that clients will stop coming if it's not you. Afraid that someone's not going to represent your brand well if it's not you. And so if you constantly stay in that place of it has to be me, or I can do this, then it will always just be you. It will always just be you. But if you want to grow and develop and really build your brand, you'll recognize that you can't do that and you be the only person. My clients had a really hard time when it stopped being just Regina. And it wasn't really the kids, it was the parents. They would always say things like, she doesn't smile as much as you do. She doesn't sound the same. She's not as articulate, Regina. She didn't play with my daughter like you did. And so all I did was, it was growth. Every time someone gave me feedback about what they felt like my team member wasn't doing that I would do, as long as it wasn't a personality thing, right? I just started coaching and teaching and developing and training my staff to represent it the Tiny Textures way, which means when a kid comes in and they're having a hard time that day, they've had a rough day, pull a book from the Positive Representation Library. Read a book to that kid while you do their hair. They turn the pages, you read the book, but you're also building a relationship. I taught them that, right? I taught them how to ask them about their best friend and their favorite colors while they're washing their hair, because that's relationship building, right? And so you have to start teaching other people to do it like Haley does it. right? But it's not Haley's way, it's your company's way. It's the way that they are representing the brand. But the only thing that stops you from doing that is feeling like you can't do it. And you absolutely can. And sometimes maybe that might be hard to hear, but you can, you're just not, because you don't think it'll still float without you. But I promise you, it just so will. You know, I can't tell you how many W-2s I sent out for people that don't work there, work for me anymore. And Tiny Texture still stays there. It's continuing to grow. We still have a wait list, even though we've changed faces in the salon. And so I want you to understand that you want to grow your company outside of it just being Haley touching their hair. I hope that answers your question, Haley.
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you, Regina.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mark. I saw your comments in the chat. Does anyone else have any questions for me?
I think John
Yes,
and I
John.
had questions. I had a question about grants, and then John piggybacked on that. So I don't know if you can see John Marin's post in the
Okay.
chat.
John Brew asked about grants and federal, state, and local funds in addition to those options. If you do have a list of benefits that would be essential to employees while remaining profitable, right, after a certain client volume, have you sought or currently have investors? No. We essentially, so I'm the sole owner of the company. I don't have anyone that has any, interest or stake in the company at this point. I do believe that at some point, in order to grow the company, that would be something that we might, of course, want to consider. But as far as like local funds or grants, I was just emailed a couple days ago a grant where if you are providing jobs for people in the underserved population, which we do, right? Some people that are below a certain socioeconomic status, then you can receive grants for providing jobs to those people. But initially that particular grant, and it was actually opened for businesses that are in like the Richmond, Chesterfield, and like surrounding areas. But it had to, so after doing further research, you had to be like more tech, it needed to be a technology-based business, which ours is not, but I am always open to resources. I do a grant search every week to see if there are grants that we can apply for that would continue to help, right? Like our bottom number, so that we can continue, right, to add more to our benefits package to help solve some of the pain points of our employees. So last year, we actually were an NAACP grant recipient through L'Oreal USA. So that was really cool. We were selected out of 10 salons in the country. We were one. And so that was pretty amazing. And so, and we use those grant funds and put it right back into our staff. And so, for example, when the pandemic happened and the governor closed salons for 3 months, I still kept my staff on, and we continued to pay them for as long as we could. And we sent some of them out to do mobile appointments, right? We went back to being mobile. One of the things that I feel like I'm really good at is continuing to pivot despite what happens. If you do ever hear or know of any grants or opportunities that would definitely, I think the more that Tiny Textures grows, the more we're able to, expand our benefits offering and maybe solve some of these pain points. And I mean, maybe there'll be a daycare, because MCV, they offer that, but I mean, it's MCV. Not that I can't be like that one day, but just knowing that there are companies out there that do have daycares on site for their employees, and maybe we'll eventually grow to that level, or at least being able to offer some sort of daycare assistance program. So John, I really appreciate you for recommending that.
Thank you. I have a follow-up as usual. All those iPads don't count as a tech. That doesn't qualify you guys to be tech, but I am, or I do wonder, or I can at least share maybe some of what we've done. We recently acquired investors. We're a digital marketing agency, but we're working on a software product to help people do digital marketing and maybe use certain services that at a lower cost than hiring a full-time agency. And we were lucky enough to work with some investors, and that opened up a whole world of hiring opportunities for us that we would have had to wait much longer for. And so that I just bring that up because if that does seem to be the issue, is staffing, sometimes it might be worth going and looking for someone who sees the opportunity but doesn't want to get in the way, really just sees the growth opportunity here and understands and really cares about the mission. I'm sure you're well aware that you probably wouldn't want someone who just is like, well, is it a good return? You probably want someone who's truly invested in the real goal here. But I don't know, something tells me I'm sure there's people out there that really would get behind what you're working on, that have the funds and would love to get involved and help you all grow. So I don't know who those connections are and who those options might be, but it might be something worth looking into if staffing continues to be an issue. And it is more like we want to be able to provide more benefits, but it just financially doesn't make sense right now to be able to provide those benefits.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. And definitely, I mean, we've I would say we were probably only 6 months out of our storefront location before someone, they came and offered us. It's actually a pretty big company out of Northern Virginia, and they actually wanted to invest in Tiny Textures, and they said, within 3 years we will, we'll have 20 locations. Here's our team, and we want 50%. And so 6 months into, right. And so we definitely have not, it's not that we have not been approached by investors, but it's got to be the right relationship done the right way, and us see, a value in that. And, we're not going to put ourselves in a situation where, we could, potentially be bought out of our own company and that sort of thing. So, anyway, we, have definitely started exploring options like that, especially as we know that we're looking to grow and scale the company. So thank you for sharing just your personal testimonial, though, just because I do feel like I needed to hear that part of part of it.
We turned down, we also had people approaching us, and we were talking to some other groups, and there's even a company that wants us to become part of their franchise now. And most of the time it won't make sense, right? You go, this is not a good deal. This is very one-sided. But there you might stumble upon, we found an angel essentially, and an incredible match for what we're trying to do.
Right.
So they might be out there, but I'm sure they're not knocking at your door every day.
Right.
So feel free to connect offline. John's a great resource in a lot of different ways, Regina. So, and we are just about at the hour, and we try to be disciplined here to hard stop at 10 so people can go back to their daily jobs. And I'm sure that Regina, your task list is just increased because you've been online for an hour and 15 minutes. So we really appreciate you talking to us today. And please, if you have other ideas or thoughts for Regina, one of the things is she's incredibly coachable. And I think that's one of the keys to her success. She's got a great vision. She's willing to listen to a lot of input. She's not going to be swayed by it necessarily. She has a strong perspective and point of view. And I think that's another reason that she's been successful. So please reach out to Regina with any ideas or thoughts or comments, and really appreciate you doing this today. This has been super. I really enjoyed it. And thanks, everybody. Appreciate everyone. So take care.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was such a pleasure to meet you. And please email me, everyone.
Absolutely.